going to do? Well, we have the duel. We're told at lines 380 that Paris' lot comes out first. In the following lines, we have Paris getting ready to dress for battle. We then got Menelaus, who straps up and is ready for battle. And then it's going to be the first turn. Paris will throw, he misses. I'm with you now at roughly line 405. But his next turn, Menelaus reared with a bronze lance and a prayer to Father Zeus. So Menelaus is going to pray before he throws his lance. Zeus, king, give me revenge. He wronged me first. Illustrious Paris, crush him under my hand. So even among the men to come, a man may shrink from wounding the host who showers him with kindness. It's majorly against the rules in Greek culture that you would ever go as a host to someone's house and as the host is there to in any way harm them, right? He throws and he doesn't, and he misses. He doesn't get it. He wounds Paris, but then he uses his sword and he tries to kill him and he smashes it on Paris's head. And again, Menelaus prays a second time to Father Zeus. No god's more deadly than you, he says. Here I thought I'd punish Paris for all his outrage. Now my sword is shattered. Right in my hands, look, my spear flew from my grip for nothing. I never hit him. Lunging at Paris, we're told. He grabbed his horsehair crest, swung him round, started to drag him into Argive lines, and now the braided chin strap holding his helmet tight was gouging Paris's soft throat. Paris was choking, strangling. Now he'd have hauled him off in one undying glory, but Aphrodite, back to the judgment of Paris, of course, Paris giving the apple to the most beautiful to Aphrodite. Zeus's daughter, quick to the mark, snapped the rawhide strap, cut from a bludgeoned ox, and the helmet came off empty in Menelaus' fist. Whirling it round the fighter, sent it flying into his Argive, scrambling fast to retrieve it. Back at his man he sprung, enraged with brazen spear, mad for the kill, but Aphrodite snatched Paris away. Easy work for a god. Wrapped him in swirls of mist. Now this is fascinating because back to the opening lines in line 10, there was this idea that when all of the men started to come out for the war, they were knocking up so much dust that you couldn't even see. And here it is again. We're back to it again. This is beautiful poetry, the way that we come back to it. The swirls of mist, the dust is able to hide Paris, sat him down in his bedroom, filled with scent. Then off she went herself to summon Helen. She goes and she finds Helen. Quickly, she says at line 450. Paris is calling for you. Come back home. There he is in the bedroom, the bed with inlaid rings. He's glistening in all his beauty in his robes. You'd never dream he's come from fighting a man. You'd think he's off to a dance or slipped away from the dancing, stretched out at ease. Enticing so that the heart in Helen's breast began to race. She knew the goddess at once, the long lithe neck, the smooth full breasts. Aphrodite can't hide the fact that she's beautiful. And the fire in those eyes, and she was amazed. And so Helen begins to say what she thinks about all of this to Aphrodite. Why now? Because Menelaus has beaten your handsome Paris? Notice it's not my handsome Paris. And hateful as I am, he longs to take me home? Is that why you beckon here beside me now with all the immortal cunning in your heart? Well, go to him yourself. You hover beside him. Abandon the gods' high road and be immortal. Never set foot again on Mount Olympus. Never. Suffer for Paris. Protect Paris for eternity until he makes you his wedded wife. That or his slave. No, I'll never go back again. It would be wrong, disgraceful to share that coward's bed once more. The women of Troy would scorn me down the years. Oh, the torment, never-ending heartache. In other words, Helen says, yeah, I got no interest in Paris. You go marry him if you want to sleep, if you want him to have somebody to sleep with. But Aphrodite rounded on her in fury. Now remember the way that Zeus will respond to Hera in Book 1 by basically terrifying her? Watch this. Don't provoke me, wretched headstrong girl, or in my immortal rage I may just toss you over, hate you as I adore you now, with a vengeance. I might make you the butt of hard, withering hate from both sides at once, Trojans and Achaeans. Then your fate can tread you down to dust. Back to the use of the word dust. So she threatened, we're told, and Helen, the daughter of mighty Zeus, was terrified, the exact same word that is used for Hera when Zeus showed Hera such power. Shrouding herself in her glinting silver robes, she went along in silence. None of her women saw her go. The goddess led the way. And so she shows up, and Helen then is with Paris. And when she's with Paris, she treats him pretty badly. So this is the way the book ends, so let's pay attention to it. She says, lashing out at her husband, "So, home from the wars. Oh, would to God you died there, brought down by that great soldier, my husband, long ago. And how you used to boast, year in, year out, that you were the better man than fighting Menelaus in power, arm, and spear. So, why not go back now? Hurl your challenge at Menelaus, dear to Ares. Fight it out together, man to man again." Now, of course, what Helen is doing here is challenging his manhood. No question about that, right? In other words, "Oh, so you're such a stud. Why don't you go back and fight him again? What are you doing in here in the bedroom? Why aren't you out there ready to go and fight?" "Wait," she says, "take my advice and call a halt right here. No more battling with fiery-haired Menelaus, pitting strength against strength in single combat. Madness. He just might impale you on his spear." In other words, she says, "Oh, you're probably too afraid. Why don't you just give up now? Menelaus will crush you." But Paris replied at once to Helen's challenge. Now remember how he replied to his bro's challenge, right? "No more, dear one. Don't rake me with your taunts, myself and all my courage. This time, true. Menelaus has won the day. Thanks to Athena." He makes it up that Athena helped Menelaus, and that's why he didn't survive. Of course, it's not true at all. "I'll bring him down tomorrow. Even we have gods who battle on our side. But come, let's go to bed. Let's lose ourselves in love. Never has longing for you overwhelmed me so. No, not even then, I tell you, that first time when I swept you up from the lovely hills of Lacedaemon, sailed you off and away in the racing deep-sea ships, and we went and locked in love on Rocky Island." I mean, really? Seriously? "That was nothing to how I hunger for you now. Irresistible longing lays me low." He led the way to bed. Aphrodite has made it clear that this is what Helen has to do. She doesn't have a choice. The irony, of course, we're fighting a war where men are going to die by the thousands, and a woman, Helen, doesn't even want to be with the man that she's with in Paris. Paris led the way to bed. His wife went with him, and now while the two made love in the large curved bed, Menelaus stalked like a wild beast up and down the lines. Where could he catch a glimpse of magnificent Paris? So note the irony. Here's Paris over in his bedroom messing around with Helen, and you got Menelaus, right, who's the real husband of Helen. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I know that I about killed him. Not a single Trojan. None of their famous allies could point out Paris to battle-hungry Menelaus. Not that they would hide him out of friendship, even if someone saw him. All of them, the Trojans, hated him like death, Black Death. But Marshal Agamemnon called out to the armies, "Hear me now, you Trojans, Dardan's Trojans' allies. Clearly victory goes to Menelaus, dear to Ares. You must surrender Helen and all her treasure with him at once, and pay us reparations, fair and fitting, a price to inspire generations still to come." So Atrides demanded. His armies roared assent. And you get a sense that all the Trojans are going to be in complete agreement. But Book 4, we'll find out they are all in agreement until, of course, Athena and Hera get back involved to make sure that we're going to keep this war going. All right, let's jump to level 2A and finish really quickly. Think of this one. This book shows us the power of a number of things. Let's write it in our notes. The power of shaming, right? Hector can shame Paris, for example. Notice Helen can't shame Paris, but Hector can, right? The power of threats. Aphrodite is able to threaten Helen to make her do what Helen doesn't want to do. What about the power of beauty? Notice that the old men will say about Helen that both the Greeks and the Trojans, her terrifying beauty, have a reason to fight for her. At level 2B, note all the character types. This is a fascinating study. Notice that we've got Paris versus Hector. Paris, the coward. Hector, the hero, the courageous one, right? Notice we've got Helen pulled in two different directions, right? That is to say, you can pity her or you can hate her, right? Depending on how you read it. Notice you have Odysseus versus Menelaus in the story that was told. Odysseus is the classic talker. He's quick with his wit. And then you have Menelaus. He's just basically the fighter. Of course, we've got all kinds of symbolism going here at 2b, right? Paris' chin strap comes to mind, the will of the gods, in other words. We've got Helen's robe that's like a web. She is stuck, isn't she? Right? And all of the people who are fighting are also stuck, we might say, right? Note the irony. Helen hates Paris, but still we fight on. It is a futile thing, and the futility of war is obviously being emphasized here, but on we fight, right? All right, let's jump to level 3a. Let's first of all compare Achilles versus Paris. It's easy to condemn both of them, but I think it's a challenge for us to think about why we maybe should pity them. Think about both Achilles and Paris from a number of different perspectives. For example, both hide from the fight, right? Both are saved by a goddess. Achilles' mom, and obviously Aphrodite for Paris. Both are driven by passion for a woman, the woman who is of course trapped, Briseis as well as Helen. Both cause great suffering and death, especially to innocents, right? Because of their decisions. How about this one? Both know their birth was filled with ironies. Paris has to know that he was born and then forced to be raised outside the city of Troy. He didn't get to grow up the way Hector did. Achilles, of course, born to a mother who says out loud, I wish that I could have had Zeus as my man. Instead, I had to have a mortal, which is embarrassing. Peleus, both of them. Right? Finally, note the irony. In the end, although it's not in the Iliad, guess who kills Achilles? It will be Paris. Also, let's compare Helen, right, and her relationship with Aphrodite versus Paris with Hera and her relationship with Zeus. For example, both women taunt their man, right? Both of them are threatened, right? I would say taunt their men. That is to say, notice, Hera will taunt Zeus. Of course, Helen will taunt Aphrodite. And both of them are threatened. Both of them have to acquiesce and give in and obey, right, out of fear. Right? Another 3a question. What other texts do you know of where the character pretends to have honor, but in the end is kind of a coward? I mean, we think about Crane's Red Badge of Courage and Henry. What are the video games that you've played, though, that play this same kind of game? What are the movies and TV shows where you have like this bragger, I'm really strong or whatever, and then the minute somebody's ready to stand up and fight, he kind of runs away? Finally, at 3b, do you feel any sense of pathos or pity for Paris, Hector, his brother? How about Helen? Do you feel any sense of pathos for Priam or the old men of Troy, or kind of having to watch all of this unfold? How about this question in 3b? Why do you think Priam let Helen stay and therefore sacrificed his whole city? So many of his own children will die because of this. Some scholars, by the way, have argued that you can't make a good argument as to why a king would ever allow this, and therefore the real truth is Helen actually wasn't in Troy, but the Greeks refused to believe it, so they're going to sack the city anyway. Which does beg a really interesting question at 3b. Do you think all of this fighting is really, in the end, about a fight over Helen? Or is it just an excuse to pillage the greatest city, Troy? In other words, an attempt to gain Time and Kleos, and the way you do it is by sacking the city. And is that why we keep getting these mentionings of what it is we're going to do to the women, etc., etc.? Well, at the conclusion of the third book, it looks like this is going to be a very short poem. Remember, this story starts out as an oral story, so it's not like you can look at the volume and go, oh, well, we got a whole bunch of more books left. If you're hearing the story told, you may be thinking, oh, okay, so this is how this thing's going to end. Paris was defeated, Menelaus won, they're going to give Helen back, it's going to be a story about the return of Helen to Menelaus, it'll be over. And in book 4, we're going to find out, yeah, no, the gods have different plans. Why? The judgment of Paris. It will be Helen and Athena who will finally say, not so fast. Come back and join me for our study of book 4. Thank you.